Hello and welcome. Today's webinar is going to be 10 ways to be an Avvir power user. I'm Adam Sisler, Senior Solutions Engineer at Avvir, and I'm going to walk you through what it means to be a power user, tell you a little bit about myself to start with, tell you a little bit about Avvir so you have the context of Avvir, and then on top of that start building up in this framework of 10 ways to be an Avvir power user. And with that, let's get started. So a little bit about myself. As you can see from the imagery, moving from left to right here, I've had an 18 plus year career in construction, starting out as an apprentice carpenter in the Seattle Carpenters Union. On the left hand side, moving into the office as a project engineer, and then progressively moving into more of a technology and innovation based role as I created and started an innovation department at the large GC that I was working at before coming to Avvir. So that's just a little bit about myself. I'm an FAA 107 drone pilot, really into reality capture and analysis, really into artificial intelligence, drones, augmented reality, virtual reality, all of that. So that's a little bit of my background. Who's Avvir? So Avvir is an automated construction risk analysis platform that enables you to automatically control quality, cost, and schedule risk. We are looking at deviations. We're giving some predictive analytics into future clashes and essentially analyzing the as-built conditions against what hasn't been built yet. We're also enabling companies to create an as-built model at the end of the project. So imagine you're using Avvir for real-time feedback loops of analysis of the as-built environment as compared to the coordination models all along the way, and then at the end of the project you have the value add of having that as-built digital twin model to hand off as a deliverable at the end. Recently, I just want to give a little foreshadowing here. There was a recent poll at the ENR Future Tech conference just in June here, and the main three items I want to highlight, are reducing time for design coordination or engineering reviews, reducing rework, and increasing operational efficiency, or a business's ability to reduce input while producing the same number of outputs, aka doing more with less, right? So the good news is that these are all things that Avvir addresses within the different focuses that our product has, and I'll be telling you all about that here today. So jumping into the 10 traits of an Avvir power user presentation, starting with, what is a power user, right? So a user of a computer system or program whose skills and expertise are more advanced than other users. Basically, a power user is somebody who is not just doing the basics. They're doing many other things inside of the platform and really coming up with maybe new and creative ways to use the tools at their disposal. And what if I told you that Avvir can make anybody on your team a power user? I'm going to talk through a lot of the different personas and workflows in this presentation so that you can have confidence that Avvir can bring out these traits in a user, and you can squeeze out even more value from the BIM models, the scheduling, and from the real-time data coming from the job sites than ever before. So if we look at the 10 traits of a power user: competent, inquisitive, explorative, experimental, influential, analytical, strategic, confident, innovative, and visionary. These are the top 10 traits that came to mind as I was starting to think through this exercise, and I'm sure that there's many other traits. These are the ones that stood out. So let's just jump right in here and start with competent, right? So a competent user, a power user is going to be competent. They're going to be competent in the basics, right? They're going to know that, when using Avvir, Avvir takes the project schedule, whether that's P6 or Microsoft Project, really whatever format you're using, we can work with your data. We're taking your federated BIM model, coordinated model that's already been run through Clash. We're taking your schedule values, and then you'll know that we're taking the 360 photos and the laser scans that you're doing on site. We're taking all of that from you, running it through our analysis, and in this instance, I'm looking at progress, one of our main features that we provide. We have 4D and 5D abilities from this. So from the 360 photos and the laser scans, we're able to tell you what is built and what is not built in an easy to digest fashion. We're able to take your schedule values and give you financial visibility into where the project is based off of that last reality capture walk. You're going to be competent in the basics of knowing that for the inspect product, we're taking the BIM model, again, the coordinated BIM post-Clash, and we're taking, this time, you're going to understand that we can only do the Clash or the deviation analysis off of laser scans, and that's because of the tolerances and because of the accuracy that you can get out of the laser scanner that you just can't get from the 360 photos just yet. Though there are many companies that have started with, extracting some deviation analysis from 360 photos. We found that to be less accurate, and our platform is actually based off of the concept of laser scan analysis. So from this analysis, you're going to understand that you're going to get with Inspect, quality control, quality assurance, so QA/QC reports after each walk. Who's installing things deviated from plan? You're going to get reports that you can push out to your teams that you can use for subcontractor management along the way, so that you're able to actually have insight into the project's health from a quality standpoint and from your trades that you never had before, so that you can actually see trends in the data that allow you to react or begin to turn the tide if you see things going the wrong way. And then finally, as I said before, you're going to be able to keep your BIM up to date. As you're collecting all of this scan data and you're running the deviation analysis, we're actually keeping an updated as-built model, which can then be handed off as a deliverable at the end of the project. An Avvir power user is going to be inquisitive. When I was a kid, I was always, the annoying kid asking why, right? Why this? Why that? Just, constantly trying to dig in, ask more questions. There's no dumb questions. Avvir is aiming to be an approachable and collaborative company. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to come work at Avvir, in that I had so many interactions when I was on the client side using Avvir that I actually saw through my communication and suggestions. I saw like my fingerprints in the product coming back as the team would be making updates, in real time, listening. And that's one of the things about, Avvir. They're creating a place for these conversations that will feed the inquisitive nature of the power user, right? So I can remember being, just having that responsiveness coming from the Avvir side. Let's talk about it. That's kind of the main thing here. The other part about being inquisitive is that, you're going to not just take those basic, we talked about the basics in the last one. You're not just going to take the reports at face value and say, oh, okay, great. This is 71%, this is 89%. You're going to understand the basics of what is going on with the analysis and be able to then start asking the questions why. Like, why are we deviating from the original schedule, or knowing that the gray line in here is the original schedule and the blue is an updated schedule? You're going to be able to ask some very important questions that can actually trigger great conversations with your subcontractors and everybody else, field leadership, so that you can actually, again, use this as a real-time feedback loop to see near real-time where something is starting to be anomalous or alter from plan, so that you can actually take advantage of the data that's being generated on the job site that you're already generating, and use that to your advantage. And so that all is stemming from being inquisitive and drilling down and digging into the data. You're going to be also explorative. Okay, not just asking why, but you're asking why not, right? You're asking why not incorporate technologies to keep schedule and budget on track and prevent rework, right? Because you know that this slide is not new to anybody. Lots of projects are over budget. There's entire amounts of rework out there, huge dollar amounts. But why not leverage the data that you're already producing on your job site to fight these risks? Why not relook at your workflows? Stop the bleeding. If operational efficiency is the highest concern, why not use this explorative mindset to incorporate these technologies as you look at your schedule and your budget? An Avvir power user is going to be experimental. They're going to know that they're not going to break things. Okay, I was able on the client side to, get to experiment with different 360 photo intake methods. I actually was able to test some mobile LiDAR scanning, which I'll show you here shortly. I was actually able to test the Naviz VLX, the wearable scanner. So I was experimental, working with the team at Avvir. And Avvir themselves are experimental, which I'll show you here as we go along. But this is just one of those traits where you're going to be boundless. You're not going to be bound by your specific role, but you're going to be able to look at this data and start to draw some conclusions and connections and be like, hey, I'm seeing this thing. I'm going to bring this other person into this conversation because we're going to start leveraging this data. You know what I mean? To stop with, at any point along the way, to reduce waste, or to say, look, there's a better way we can do this. And you're not afraid to maybe step outside of that comfort zone and try something new with the data, or try something new even inside of just the, inside of the portal itself, which I'll show you a little bit of. Which comes to this next slide. You're going to be explorative, knowing that this is one place where all of your 360 photos and all of your laser scans are going to be hosted, along with all of the BIM, all of your building information modeling, specifically 3D models. I understand BIM is a lot more than just the 3D model, but there's this ability then to start interacting with the as-built models and the digital twin of the project as it's being constructed using the progress features of our platform, and then also being able to explore within, what does it mean for a project engineer to have access to this when they're talking to their subcontractors about a certain scope? What does it mean for a foreman, a superintendent in the field, to not be, outside of the modeling process and outside of all of this technology because it's too cumbersome and hard to use? This is where that explorative nature comes in for a power user. They're going to also help in spreading the word that it's easy to use this platform. You can navigate your project with a mouse, and you can turn on and off point clouds like never before. And all of your dates and all of your project history is all in one place. With that, an Avvir power user is going to be influential. They're going to take that knowledge, right? They're going to take those learnings from the experimentation and from pushing the boundaries, and they're good communicators, right? Across the many personas that I'm talking about, they know the basics, they know the old ways and the new ways, right? And they're actually coming up with even newer ways. They're able to influence product adoption and usage across any of the team members, regardless of role. There's the value there is that, Avvir is not a seat or license-based platform, so we're encouraging everybody on the project, can get some value out of the data, and, putting as many minds, as many eyeballs on the data, all minds on deck, getting everybody in there is going to spark maybe some findings or discoveries that can prevent an issue, that maybe one person wasn't thinking about, but because of the ease of access of the platform, somebody else could have that light bulb go off. So the influential nature of the power user is going to be, that there's value for every team member to use this recontextualized data made easy to access and comprehend. Some of that data comes in the form of this quality tracking and reporting. And so when you start to actually look at the portal and the quality control reports, you can actually start to see and know the deviations, that you can adjust the tolerances, that you can adjust the trades that you're working with and looking at, so that you can actually use this for real-time communication along the project path. So that this is a tool that can be used in the field, in the office, and across multiple communication streams for OAC meetings, resolution between project engineers and architects. How many times have you spent using snippets of photographs and snippets from inside the model and trying to overlay them, to include in an RFI? There are so many value adds to having all of this information all in one place and all of these reports being automatically generated that they start to become a very powerful arsenal to have for your communication. And then all on top of that, again, you're getting the faster as-builts, right? So all along the way, you're able to just export the as-built model. Or along the way, if it's a subcontractual obligation, you can be exporting just per trade, that deviation per trade, so that they can then bring in and update their model depending on the contractual obligation. So we're making some of the more tedious aspects of the project automated and more accessible. For instance, we're taking all of that data from your laser scans and comparing it to the BIM model, and we're able to break it down into Power BI reports so that you can look at, by trade, who's installing things that are deviated from the coordinated model or deviated from design. That starts to become very powerful as you start to look at dates, look at installation over time, you look at subcontractor performance over time. Great for real time during construction, but also a great deliverable and valuable at the end of the project as you go into the next project, knowing that you're pulling from probably the same pool of subcontractors oftentimes for the same types of projects. So you're actually beginning to build a database of subcontractor performance that you've never had before. An Avvir power user is going to be analytical. They're going to be able to look, at themselves honestly, internally and externally, be able to look at one's processes and workflows and admit that there's flaws or areas of improvement. We can all improve, right? An analytical power user is going to be able to address issues head on and in a proactive means versus just lobbing out one more RFI or pushing through another change order. They're going to be able to, an analytical power user is going to be able to drill down into the data and control the narrative, reduce unnecessary change orders, eliminate that RFI that you were going to, send out. If you're able to use this data in communication in an analytical framework, you may not have to write that next RFI, right? You may not have another change order because you're managing and tracking all of this in such a transparent and clear way that, frankly, until a platform like Avvir, you haven't been able to do. For instance, another thing that we're enabling with the idea of analytics in mind for a power user, we're enabling this future clash detection. So this is definitely unique and a different differentiator for Avvir is that, again, we started with LiDAR scanning. The proposition that LiDAR scanning would get more ubiquitous and cheaper as it proliferated across construction, and that the analysis of, say, coordinated models would become more accurate and reliable as the scanning proliferated and the scanners became quicker, cheaper, etc. And all of that is happening. So now imagine that you can analyze the as-built condition. Every time you do a laser scan, you can get a report out like this that's telling you, when you look at this, you see in blue where something was designed to be installed, green where the laser scan actually picks it up, and then most importantly, the gray, the duct that is not yet built, where you can clearly see the thing that was built in the wrong spot is about to interact with. It's reports like this, the power of this mobile-friendly report that can be brought out into the field. It'll take you to the location. It'll give you that information about how much this thing is deviated that allows you to really analyze these issues so that you can determine, is this critical? Is this going to screw up something downstream, and then be able to react to it, right? And then push it to, let's say you're accepting this deviation, you can push it then to the as-built. So at a more macro level, as you're analyzing your project data, you're able to look at the entire floor. So now imagine kind of like sandbox planning, you're able to look at the holistically entire floor depending on which trade you're talking to, or if you're talking to the entire subcontractor group. You can show, near real time based on your scan frequency, where the deviations are occurring and start to really hone in on your problem areas of the project. This can be very powerful because, if one thing is starting to snowball, you can actually start to see the colorization changing in our laser scans that give you that visual that allow you to quickly communicate with subcontractors. You have the ability to change the tolerances that you're looking at with our tolerance slider over on the left-hand side. Or again, filter through trades. There is a lot of analytical capabilities in here. And the other thing, one of the most powerful kind of things that we're built upon is that our viewer is based on the Forge viewer. So the tools at the bottom of the screen are probably familiar to most of you out there, right? So on top of everything I'm talking about that the Avvir platform does, you also then have the ability to measure, section, right? Use browser trees and all of these other functions and features that are inherent in the Forge viewer, making your ability to communicate with your data, even more streamlined and clear. When you think about it, all of this data, right? You're using the data to gain powerful insights in a consolidated platform, a single consolidated platform. Think of it as a connected data environment, and it fits within your workflow. I'm finding more and more since I've been in Avvir that as I look at each role and as I'm working to train up different personas on how they're using the platform, it can fit within many different workflows. Because if you think about it, we're really just reformatting the data that you already have. This 96% of the data that's going unused, we're basically just reformatting it to be suited to the different people on your project so that they can get the most out of it. This leads me to being strategic. Okay? An Avvir power user is going to be strategic. They're going to think big picture, and they're going to think fine details, right? The whole spectrum. Remember the chart at the beginning talking about reducing rework and increasing operational excellence? That's kind of where this is going, right? A power user is going to be taking all of this into account and all of the understanding that they have of the different data sources, and they're going to be leveraging it to the best of their ability. Because as you see in this chart, which again, I'm using these very common charts because I feel like it's going to resonate with a lot of the owners, general contractors that are watching this webinar, that the earlier you are looking at your risk on a project is when you have the most influence, right? That's why we're talking to folks about getting early onto projects so that we can talk about how Avvir can format our reporting to be the most effective to you. That's one of the best things about Avvir is the people. Everyone says that, but it really is true at Avvir. Again, it's one of the reasons I wanted to get over here and work for Avvir. The ability to just listen and to have such customizable results and deliverables so that we can actually, if we're on the project early enough, while we're conditioning the BIM model, while we're conditioning the schedule, while we're taking in your schedule values, we can talk with you about, what is most important to you. How high level do you want to roll up, or how granular do you want to get? Because we can meet you where you want to be with your data. Again, cost of changes just keep going up as the project goes on. So getting a grip, getting a clear sight into this, into your project's quality, cost, and schedule health is imperative from an early stage. Another thing that I want to hit on here with being strategic is that, again, I'm trying to hammer this home, but all along the way, the value add that's happening here is that not only are you analyzing the project real time so that you're preventing issues all along the way, but you're actually working towards a contractual obligation for as-builting, which enables you to, provide this model at the end of the project with less resources. So again, hitting on that operational excellence, allowing you to create this as-built model for handoff with less resources. Power user is going to be confident. They're going to be confident that Avvir has done many projects with a lot of the ENR top 100, top 50, top 20, top 10. We've analyzed millions of deviations. We've found nearly 500,000 critical deviations, which if you start to look at that in terms of those, the estimates per deviation on a project, I've seen anywhere ranging from $3,000 to $7,000. You can start to do the math. If you were to find deviations that were going to have an impact of time, money, quality, if you found those earlier, you could be saving that money on your project, saving those resources on your project to enable them to focus on, better quality, driving the schedule home, etc. You're going to have the confidence of understanding that in order to get the best and cleanest data possible out of the Avvir platform, you're going to have the confidence in your reality capture cadence, right? You're going to understand that if you don't do that in-house, you're going to know that there's third-party providers, like one of our sister companies, Multivista, that can enable you to not have to have a scanning department, not have to have a 360 photo capture department, but you'll be able to say, full package, get Multivista to do the capture at whichever cadence makes the most sense per the project, and have Avvir do the analysis. Just something to consider there. You're going to have the confidence knowing that all along the way you're hitting pre-cover, you're hitting pre-concrete pour, and you're hitting, say, a weekly 360 progress photo walk to get the most out of this, so that you're documenting and creating this living record of the project in progress, and also getting the views behind the walls, the views in the slab for use in operations for the next 50, 100 years of the project. Again, value add. You're going to have the confidence in, like I said, because you were in the conversations earlier on with Avvir, breaking down the work breakdown structure, working down the schedule of values into the format, into the, again, as granular as you want to get. As you see on the screen here, we're going multiple levels deep within any of the trades, allowing you to look at, what's been captured, what's the quantity captured per this reality capture walk against what's been reported. So surfacing up this 5D in this ability to, again, same ease of use I've been talking about, the same filter ability I've been talking about, the ability to, filter through your data so that you're using it for your pay applications, you're using it for your communication with your owners, you're checking your subcontractors' pay applications against what you're actually seeing in the model. Again, having this transparency and clarity can enable you to not get overbilled, not miss something. We're actually coming up with really interesting ways. We understand that not everything is modeled. You might be asking, hey, Avvir is a BIM-based laser scan analysis and reality capture analysis company, but not everything's modeled. That's why we're addressing that with something we call recipes. So we understand that a line item like, say, form work is maybe not all the time going to be modeled, but we're able to take that into account, and we'll have those discussions with you while we're formatting the data initially, to take that into account in the schedule values. So when the algorithm picks up, there is concrete, it's finished and in place, we understand that that's predicated on having form work that's already been done and completed. And we can talk about all the different parts and pieces there, but just wanted to emphasize that we're understanding not everything is modeled. We understand that not everything is going to be captured in that. So I'm just looking at time here. Want to be respectful. Want to keep this kind of short and sweet. But I did want to hit on these last two traits. Very important, very near and dear to me. An Avvir power user is going to be innovative, right? Able to look beyond, intuit, draw connections, right? Find new and novel uses and approaches to drive, the product forward. When I was on the client side, the iPhone LiDAR had just come out. I was able to say, hey, here's this new mobile scanner. Then Avvir, being as receptive and innovative as a company as we are, we're able to say, hey, let's try it. So I was out in the field, like I said, I was able to use the mobile scanner. I'm familiar with Faro scanning as well, so we were able to do a comparative study to see feasibility. And it ended up being that, generation 1 of the phone mobile scanner, there is some inherent problems, drift, etc., that you don't get with a terrestrial scanner like a Faro. But the idea of going through the process, going through the innovation testing, we were able to find that the mobile LiDAR, may just take a generation or two before it is feasible. And it actually is okay for saying if something is there or not there. It's just not that level of accuracy we would need to be able to present you with reliable deviation analysis just yet. So just that, the ability to innovate with the understanding, that it may or may not work. An Avvir power user is going to be visionary. Now, this is differentiated from innovation just in that, innovation is saying, hey, this thing just came out, let's try it. Visionary being looking to future technologies and preparing for them when they haven't even come out yet, like bringing together new technologies and methods, like fully autonomous capture and comparison, or like neural radiance fields, or NERF. Lots of conversation right now around artificial intelligence, as Avvir is an AI-based construction risk analysis, automated construction risk analysis platform. AI is very near and dear to us. We're tracking advances in large language models, advances in neural networks, and we've experimented with, say, photogrammetry models from drones. But photogrammetry differs from NERF in some key factors, which I'll save that for another webinar. I could go on about that for too long probably. But the promise of NERF is that this technology has just been around since 2020. And it's really using a neural network, basically artificial intelligence, to analyze video that's coming off of just your cell phone. So it's similar to photogrammetry in that aspect, that it's taking, say, video or photos and then reconstructing it. But the differentiator comes when neural radiance fields are using a neural network to recreate the scene, basically neuron by neuron, or say point by point, giving you an example of like what I'm showing you here, creating a neural radiance field of the point cloud. So you're getting, we're experimenting with this, we're testing with this, it's very new technology. Me personally, I'm very excited about this because if we could, terrestrial laser scanners are great and the cost is coming down. Mobile scanners are getting, better and better by the day, the cost is coming down. Autonomous robots, are getting cheaper and cheaper and more ubiquitous. There's a convergence of all of these technologies. What if we could bring it back to a daily scan by your field supervisor on their piece of work to run through analysis? What if we could get to true real-time analysis? That's some of the things that I'm talking about with, being visionary as an Avvir power user. You're looking holistically at, all of the workflows and processes that you're doing on the job site and able to, provide insight along the way. You're participating, in your interaction with Avvir. You're not just, passively getting a report, shelving it, putting it into a file on the project drive or on your Procore. You're able to use the data real time. So again, just kind of recapping, the Avvir power user, you're going to be competent. You're going to be competent in the basics. You're going to be inquisitive. You're going to be asking why. You're going to be explorative, asking why not. You're going to be experimental. You're going to be willing to break things. You're going to know that you're not going to break them. You're going to be influential. You're going to be a good communicator. You're going to be analytical, honest internally and externally, looking at your workflows. Strategically, you're going to look at the big picture and all of the details, full spectrum. You're going to be confident, carry yourselves with pride and take pride in ownership, take pride in the project, take pride in the data that you have. You're going to be a trailblazer, you're going to be an innovative early adopter, willing to suspend disbelief in an effort to change. You're going to be visionary. You're going to be an innovative change agent. You're going to be participating actively in your use of Avvir so that you can get the most out of your data. With that, I've come to a close of the 10 traits of an Avvir power user, and I thank you all for your time. Recording will be available on social media here very soon. Thank you all for attending. Any questions, please put them in the chat or put them on the comments section of social media, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.